All right. I'm Mark Hamalainen from the Longevity Biotech Fellowship. And for those of you who don't know, it's an organization that helps people get involved in the technology and research necessary to cure aging entirely. And my co-director, Nathan Chang, is in the back. Oh, he's right here, filming. I'm going to go fast because I have a lot of material. So you can look at us up on LinkedIn if you want to know more. So, the vision. Longevity is a big tent. People are in the longevity community for a lot of different reasons. Our focus is on a future where people don't age at all. Unlimited lifespan, unlimited health for everybody. And we want to see that happen as soon as possible. But there's a bit of a problem. Aging is really complicated. It's kind of beyond the time horizon of the typical project that humans would take on. Actually, it's orders of magnitude more difficult than anything humans have ever tried to do something about. And I would say that aging is not a disease. Maybe if you're just trying to get classification for legal purposes, you might make that argument. But aging is one. It's not an infection. It's not a single mutation. It's not something you can fix with a supplement. Reductionist theories of aging have come and gone. They've all failed. It's really just a lot of things failing slowly at about the same rate, sometimes a little faster in one person than another. But if you don't fix all of them, actually, you don't actually buy that much time. People tell you if you fix cancer, you'd only add a couple of years to lifespan. And even the trendy things like reprogramming right now, they don't address somatic DNA mutations. They don't address the extracellular matrix. There's not one thing that will fix aging. And it's an emergency. This graph is pretty scary if you think about it. And it doesn't matter how much sauna, lifting, supplements, or zone 2 you do, it's not going to change it by that much, actually. Sorry. Don't want to be a downer, but I do all those things because, you want to buy as much time as you can, but you're still going to die. So what's your plan, guys? Does anyone here have a plan for how we're going to solve aging? When? Do you think we actually understand aging? Do you know what kind of technologies would actually be able to cure it completely? Are you a live player? Are you doing something about it? Is there a plan? Does somebody have a plan? We looked into this. I've worked with Aubrey de Grey. There's SENS, there's the Foresight Tech Tree, lots of articles. I think there's not really they're not what we were looking for, though. SENS and the hallmarks are very focused on the biology, but they're pretty vague on what you would actually do about it. The Foresight Tech Tree is pretty cool, very detailed, maps all of the things that people are doing, but it doesn't really tell you what's important and what's not. It's kind of overwhelming. It doesn't have any specific costs or timelines. And all of the articles that are out there, they're kind of like a snapshot of a particular organization or person's favorite ideas at that moment. So I would say there is no plan. At least we couldn't find one that we considered to be coherent and comprehensive. And when there's no plan, there's no direction. It's hard to attract talent, hard to attract funders. And if there's no plan, how do you decide how to distribute resources? We think we need a plan. We think the plan should be directly focused on curing aging entirely, not on things that we know from the get-go can't achieve that. We think it should be specific with objectives and milestones, and it should be actionable. You should be able to look at this plan and say, oh, I could work on this part or fund it. So here's our plan at the high level. We identified 3 potential paths to completely dealing with aging: replacement, biostasis, and advanced bioengineering. Gonna have to go really fast. Why these 3? You notice there's another box on there which is traditional pharma. I'm friends with a lot of the people in the longevity biotech community. I've talked with the CEOs. Best case scenario for pharma is adding 10 extra years. And Retro actually has it in their slogan. With advanced bioengineering, this is talking about, there's no law of physics that says we couldn't re-engineer ourselves to be non-aging. It doesn't, with free energy coming in, you could potentially keep things at bay if we knew how to engineer biology. Those strategies both require you to understand aging. But there are strategies that don't require you to understand aging. Justin Rebo talked about replacement earlier today. I hope all you guys saw his talk. It's probably even better than mine. Probably the best one here. That allows you to bypass your understanding of aging by literally just replacing old parts with young parts. If you have an old arm and you switch it with a young arm, now you have a young arm, just by definition. It's that easy. You don't have to know how aging works. Biostasis, people are familiar with cryonics. There's other forms of biostasis. There's some interesting thing here is to do with the numbers of how much things might cost, but I'm going to come back to that. And we didn't really include pharma or biohacking on our roadmap for a specific reason. There just doesn't seem to be any logical case to be made that they could actually solve the problem. Not that you shouldn't do them, but they're not going to solve the problem. Some people think AI will solve the problem, but Sam Altman has a very good friend named Joe Betts-LaCroix, who he's giving large amounts of money to work on the biology of aging. And if you think you know more than Sam about AI, I don't know, you might want to question your assumptions there. I think we should be using AI. We should use every tool that we have to the max, and people that are hand pipetting in old-style biotech facilities probably aren't doing it the right way, and what they're doing is probably not going to matter when we look back in history. I think AI and automated research cycles are going to be critical. But we still have to do biology. We're just using this as a tool. I'm going to start with bioengineering of the three categories. Overview, like I said, in theory, there's many organisms that live longer or shorter than us. Aging is malleable. If we could gain engineering control of biology, then we could potentially turn ourselves into non-aging organisms. There's a lot of really hard problems to solve in this. We have to collect a lot of data. We have to build models. We have to be able to design new genetic circuitry, and we need to deliver that into the body. And each of these up here is actually like an Apollo level project when you dig into the details. People can't even tell you how much it would cost, but their ballpark numbers are in multiples of the Apollo project. So it's a big project to try to gain engineering control of biology. It's not impossible. It's kind of exciting too. It's being driven by a lot of external forces that have nothing to do with aging. And a lot of money is being spent on it for reasons like synthetic biology and AI that's developed for other purposes, and then we can apply it to biology. I want to highlight the data side here a little bit and make a little note that some people might not know about. AlphaFold was celebrated, made a big deal about recently, and it's, Nobel Prize stuff, solving the protein folding problem. But AlphaFold would not have been possible if governments around the world hadn't spent $20 billion generating a library of X-ray crystallography structures of proteins. The actual cost to make AlphaFold was only $20 million. It's 1,000 times difference. And right now, we're completely limited by our data when it comes to applying models to biology. We wouldn't have the modern cellular reprogramming industry if Mark Zuckerberg's funding the Human Cell Atlas. A lot of other examples like that. I know some people here are very pro-private industry, but none of the stuff on our path in bioengineering is possible without spending amounts of money that private industry has no interest in spending. So if you can come up with another solution, I'm interested. But right now, governments are the only ones that spend that level of money. So yeah, there's sort of some categories I mentioned: data collection, modeling, delivery, and design. As we move down these technology paths, we get intermediate levels of capability that allows you to achieve potential life extension escape velocity, as Aubrey would put it. But you might have to get pretty far down these paths to actually completely cure aging. And the intermediate solutions might be further away and harder than you think they are. I'll give you an example. Gene delivery. Right now, you inject a vector into your blood, and you're expecting it to go through your body, get into different cells, get from the inside the cell into the nucleus. The current level of our technology, I would say, is kind of similar to throwing a bucket of paint into the air on a beach and expecting every grain of sand to get the same amount of paint. That's called the biodistribution problem. Maybe you can make your paint molecules repel each other or have affinities for different types of sand, and I think that'll improve it, but it's pretty bad if you're looking at tackling aging. If you're looking at tackling certain diseases, you can do a lot, but it's not, there's a long way to go before we're gonna be doing gene delivery for aging. Data collection I already mentioned. Projects. There are a lot of exciting projects. A lot of them are actually not for-profits, but there are a couple for-profits now. The Wyss Institute, the Abu Ghut Laboratory. Our roadmap contains a list of specific projects that are doing critical path work, and we have a database, and we'll be making this available on the web, so you can go and you can see what are the cool projects that are actually advancing these goals, and you can see, are they hiring? Do they need investment? Do they need volunteers? Could I do an internship? That will all be part of the web-based version of our roadmap. We want this to be actionable. Time and cost estimates. We really wanted to make time and cost estimates for all of the categories. Unfortunately, with bioengineering, there's so many unknown unknowns that you really can't. But what we're gonna do over the coming months is set time and cost estimates for certain intermediate goals. Optimistic napkin math by experts. We talked to about 400 people. $1 trillion per year over 25 years to come to a solution of aging. That's the optimistic napkin math. Apply the rule of pi at least once, probably. Yeah, so in summary, we need major advances in gene delivery. Aging is complex, but not infinitely slow. I do think this is a solvable problem, but on unknown timescales. And data generation is currently a limiting factor. Who's gonna pay for it? All right, totally different. Replacement. This is I mentioned, you can just replace parts, potentially the whole body. There's a researcher named Jean Hebert who is working on doing gradual brain replacement. There's a lot of, you can grow human bodies that don't have functioning brains. Occasionally a person is born that doesn't have a functioning brain. We don't consider those to be sentient. So why not just grow a body that's not sentient? Instead of just replacing your kidney or your liver, wouldn't it make more sense to replace the whole body? Because everything's aging, not just any one organ. Of course, then you have the brain. There is a path for brain replacement. I won't be able to go into the details in this talk. I don't have enough time. Suffice to say, you should look up Jean Hebert's research and his book called Replacing Aging. There are science questions here, though. It's not just engineering, but nerve reconnection, definitely a big one. There has been progress there, and you could potentially use brain-computer interfaces. There's been progress there as well. There's paraplegic people that have been able to walk again using brain-computer interfaces. Neuralink's working on this. There's a lot of process development, growing the non-sentient bodies. Primates have been cloned. That was a breakthrough in 2018, cloning of monkeys. That's Jean Hebert there that I was talking about on the bottom right. So this is actually pretty promising. You don't have to understand aging. We're not talking about Apollo-level projects and uncountable unknown unknowns. And there's people doing this. BE Therapeutics is doing the brain replacement. Renewal Bio is generating cells. and there's a bunch of still startups. If you want to know who those people are, you can come talk to us. But for obvious reasons, they're not looking for publicity. They're looking for funding, and they're looking for people that can actually get to work and help them. And if that's something you're passionate about, you can get in touch with them. But I'm not going to name any names. I will say that head transplants have actually been successfully done in animals as well. And here's a cool thing. You could actually put together a budget for this. $3.6 billion to at least test the feasibility of the idea. That's like an actual number with actual timeline, not possible on the bioengineering path. So in summary, it's a mostly engineering approach to aging. Total costs on the order of $3 billion are a rounding error on the amount of money that's spent on pharmaceuticals annually. Concrete timelines, a few technical risks, but promising. Probably the biggest obstacle is that people don't know about it, and it seems kind of weird. But I don't know. A lot of things that we do nowadays would seem weird to people 100 years ago, so maybe we should work on shifting that over to a window faster. Biostasis, the backup plan. How's the progress going? I've been in the aging industry for 20 years. We've gone from having 0 aging therapies to 0 aging therapies. Here's somebody else who's been in the aging industry for a little while. She started a cryo company. And she knows a lot. She had the first venture capital firm in longevity. So the overview here is to just put yourself into pause, the deepest sleep, potentially through low temperatures or other means that I won't get into. There's a specific engineering objectives here. This will be available online, so you can dig in if you really want later. Probably the most challenging one is the rapid even rewarming. If you don't warm the body evenly, you get ice crystal formation as you switch from a glass state through to the thawed state, and that damages tissue. There's some really, really cool engineering ideas for how to solve that problem, and there's a bit of a renaissance happening right now. The Wait But Why has a really good sort of fun explanation in comic form, if that's your preferred media. People have frozen and thawed a rat kidney and it worked. We just need to scale it up, basically. So it's an engineering problem. There are a bunch of projects here, companies, and they are chronically extremely underfunded, but estimates are on the high end that $2.4 billion would allow you to test pretty much all of the ideas that we have and see if they work. And a lot of them are very promising and have already worked on smaller scale and just need to be scaled up. So again, a rounding error on what pharma does. Now I want everyone to scan this. Get out your phones. If you don't already have it out, I see a few of you do. Scan this code. There's a form, and you guys get to be in charge of $500 billion. And tell me how you would spend it. Be fast. Don't try to be super precise about this. Just rough numbers. Let's see if we're getting any responses here. All right. I'll come back to it. You guys get those responses in. Only a couple. I'm seeing a lot of people interested in replacement. biostasis, advanced bioengineering. Pharma's not looking so good. Biohack is getting a little bit. AI is getting a little bit. All right. Seems like it's staying. Yeah, replacement. Wow, 110 billion for replacement, maybe? All right. Gonna have to cut it off here because I don't have enough time to wait for all of you. Sorry. It's like, that's a really nice. I wish you guys were in charge. Let me show you what it's actually, this situation is. This is the real situation. Pharma's not really, we would have to make this another 150% taller. Replacement currently gets half of a pixel. Cryo gets a quarter of a pixel. That's the current state of things. If anybody knows anybody here who's in charge of this, you need to sit them down and have an intervention. I want to highlight that, again, the best case scenario with pharma is adding a few years, same with biohacking, versus things that could potentially cure aging entirely, getting basically no funding. Bioengineering being the exception, but most of what is in bioengineering, the lighter orange, is more translation of stuff that we already know can't really do much for aging. The amount that's actually going towards stuff that would matter for aging is quite small. Key takeaways: biostasis and replacement are underfunded. We need to accelerate progress with new tools and technology. Bioscience institutions need a paradigm shift. The entire distribution of resources is completely illogical. We ran a bottleneck study. There's a lot of bottlenecks progress. So don't wait. Billionaire paradox. There's, what is it, 6,000, Nathan? Billionaires? They spend 0.01% of their wealth on anything that you might call longevity. Most of that actually is pretty conservative stuff too. It follows the bad distribution, not the good distribution. Here's how to get involved if you want to support our work. So you can join or donate to the Longevity Biotech Fellowship. We train people and get them to work on these important problems. We're raising a fund that will only invest in the important problems. You don't get a return on your investment unless we solve the important problems. It's like an impact fund. Or just do it yourself. The main thing I want you to do is not do nothing. And don't do more of the same that obviously doesn't work. And that's my talk.